Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychic Connection, Collaboration Over Competition. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Marilyn. Welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So, as usual, I love to just dive right in with questions. So, my first question is you feel one of your primary abilities is guiding people with past life regression. Can you explain how it can be a healing tool in a person's life?
So, past life regression, a lot of people, or a lot of the young people who come to see me, think it's all about fun and games. And,
Mhm.
oh, I think I was, Cleopatra or something like that. But it's actually a very powerful healing tool because in our auric body, we have our Akasha. And in the Akasha are a lot of the memories and the emotions that run subconsciously. And when you do a regression, you tap into that. And a lot of times you will clear things. Sometimes people will even say, like, no, I've had this pain in my lower back, for my whole life, and we can't figure out what it is. And it was actually a trapped emotion and it releases.
Mm.
A lot
Hmm.
of times also things will make sense. Just different situations in someone's life will make more sense. Other times we will have, you would understand this as a medium, energies that are trapped on you, like,
Yes.
yeah, good and bad ones, and that there's a moment there for release there, and it's just fascinating, and I love it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. You know, what if somebody had like an addiction, say like to smoking?
yes.
You know,
So
that help?
it does. However, I do it differently. I was taught differently. I took my first past life regression course in New York City, and he was talking to me about, like, in the past when hypnosis, maybe in the '70s when you and I were, kids, or
Right.
it was, you don't like to smoke anymore. Smoking makes you sick, But it doesn't work that way anymore because then you will just go and you'll find something else to be addicted to.
Gotcha.
So again, the key is to really get at the heart of it, and we want to know why you're smoking. What is it? What emotion is it that you're trying for eating, for instance? Like, what are you trying to fill?
Yeah.
Smoking. Honestly, smoking is a tough one, but a lot of times with smoking, drugs, and drinking, there usually is an attachment involved, and it is another a person who didn't go to the light when they passed on, and it's somebody who's living out an addiction through another person. So when that entity is released to the light, it becomes easier for that person because they're in their own energy to say, you know what, I'm going to overcome this, and their
Wow.
urge is
I
lessened.
okay. I never heard of it that way. So it could be that it's not the actual person.
It could be. It's
It could
usually a combination
a
because
combination.
the
Okay.
like energy attracts like. So you're not going to receive an energy that you don't have some kind of a resonance with.
Okay. Gotcha. Mhm.
So,
Right.
but it does make it easier. As far as there are two ways to look at the addictions. You
Mhm.
could sometimes fill the person with that addiction and make them feel they're filled with it.
Mhm.
But I find it's more about finding the deepest meaning. So past life regression is intense. It's not always fun, but there are times, plenty of times, where people will tap in and into an energy that they need to remember, like when they were in their power, when they had money or whatever,
Right.
whatever it is. There are
Mhm.
plenty of instances like that. But more often is the first thing that comes out ours is a lot of tears. And it's really very freeing in the end.
Oh, but in the end, it's freeing. Wow.
Yes,
Releasing a lot of emotion. Mhm.
yes.
Okay. Wow. Can everyone connect with a past life or only people that are like open to the idea?
So that's such an interesting question. I've had all of the gamut. I've had Well, anybody who comes for a past life regression is usually open to it because that's why they
Right,
came. However, I also do Reiki and different forms of energy therapy, and there have been a few times, not many, but a few
Right.
times where I'd be giving energy to somebody and they will go to a regression. And there have been times
Mhm.
where people come for a regression and they stay in their childhood
Ah,
because the way my experience shows me is that the healing kind of happens in the form of an onion. It's
mhm.
one layer at a time. So maybe that person needed to really stay in their childhood. And then maybe later on, if they decide to come back, they'll do a past life. Also, another thing I explain to my clients is if you get a cut, your body knows exactly how to heal it. It knows which, white blood cells or whatever to
Mhm.
send to that site. So it's like your mind isn't any different and your mind knows what to show you. So
Oh.
you're going to see what you need to see. And the biggest question is, I know I made that up. And I always say, you kind of did. And you kind of, I don't, you know what? I'm not here to prove that you didn't or prove anything to you. But the fact of the matter is that you saw that and then you got a pain in your neck and now it's gone.
Right.
So that's the way it goes.
Wow. So the results can be there, though.
The results are there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there. Okay. So now another primary ability you have is entity release.
Yeah.
Please define what it is, the various aspects of it, and are you ever scared of what you're dealing with?
So I'm gonna because
It's
when
like
it
a
comes to
three-part question.
right, because my glasses were glowing before and we were
Yeah.
so so entity release. I already touched a little bit on it, but
Right.
it wasn't something that I said, oh gee, I really want to do this because
Mhm.
no, who would do that? um, it started probably my sister. Um, when I first learned energy therapy, I released something from my neck, and at the time, I didn't even understand what that was. That was like I'm 53 now, so I was 36, and they're like, "You released something from your neck." I'm like, "What in the world?" You know, at the time,
Right.
I didn't know what chakras were, and you means you were afraid to speak up. So it's mostly healed now, but I have like an ongoing karma with my sister. My sister's 9 years older. She was always very mean, pretty
Oh,
much demonic. Okay, now that I
oh,
think about it. So at some point in time, I began to learn a modality called star healing, and she was a channeler of Michael the Archangel. And I broke down and I said, like, what is wrong with my sister? Like, I just couldn't take it anymore because it was bad. And she
mhm,
said, your sister has an attachment. And I was like, what in the world is an attachment?
mhm,
And so I had also learned something called reconnective healing around that time. And I was learning in my own life how to stick up for myself and put up boundaries and say, you know what, you're just not going to be mean to me anymore. Just go
right.
away. So that happened. And about a year later is when that information came to me. And my sister came to me and she said, can you help me?
Mhm.
In the meantime, my niece, her daughter, started to really tap into her intuitive abilities. I guess it runs in the family.
Right. Sounds like it.
Yeah, and my niece confirmed, yeah, she does have something going on. So my sister finally asked me to help her, and I started to feel around her aura with like reconnective healing methods, and I came upon a cold spot, and I intuitively put my hand on her heart and began to talk to it. And I was talking to it and saying, like, doesn't this feel good? And it was just crazy. Like it just came to me, and I pulled. And it came off. Where it went, I don't know, didn't see it, but I felt it, and
Yeah.
my sister got goosebumps and tears, and it was amazing, and so my journey has very much included crazy things happening to me that I needed to research because my
Mhm.
personality is such that I don't really do things unless they're true for me. Like,
Mhm.
just because somebody says you need to believe this, I'd be like, well, who says? Like, so I guess that's why radical things happen to me, like
Mhm.
funny clearings on my throat that create, actual visible things and this stuff. Hey,
Can we jump back to your sister a minute? Because now I'm curious. So, you were able to release some type of an entity that was on her, and then did she get better? Like, was she nicer to
well,
you?
so
Like, did you have
here's
a better relationship
okay,
with
it's a
her?
great question.
I'm just like curious now.
Yeah, she was much better for a while.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
she told me she loved me for the first time in my life.
Wow.
She said, like, I look outside and I used to just feel like just despising everything, the sparrow in the tree, like I wanted to like smash it and like,
Oh.
yeah. And she was completely different. However,
Hmm.
this is where work on the self comes in.
Okay.
Remember what I was saying about the resonance. Like, if you don't start to ask yourself, what was in me that allowed for that? Do I
Hmm.
have hate in me? Do I have resentment in me?
Right.
Um, do I have abandonment? So many things. And really start to work on it, you're going to get one back. And that's what happened to my sister.
Wow. So you have even more intuitive abilities. Um, So, you speak about integrated energy therapy, holy fire Reiki, and dowsing.
Yeah.
Can you explain what each of these are? And do you have a favorite of those three?
So, integrated energy therapy is a modality I learned around the same time that I was learning Reiki, probably about 18 years ago. And just like, changing your television station, it's just a different frequency and
Okay.
it's an angelic frequency. And it's a little bit more specific, whereas Reiki, you're putting the energy in and it's just kind of moving through you and clearing what needs to be cleared. Whereas the IET, it works with some of the tenets of Chinese medicine. So we would be actually, it's a purple, a violet energy, and the color violet is one that will change consciousness. And so you're channeling that energy into, say, the liver, and we ask for it to bring up cellular memory of anger and resentment, or the heartbreak and betrayals and grief in the lungs. Like, in our generation, Superman's wife died of lung cancer and never smoked a day in her life, but
Mhm.
look at all the grief she had in her lungs. So they call IET healing without feeling. So there are times
Oh,
where, past life regression, people might not be ready for something like that. So it's
mhm.
usually, so if I'm in a session and you can kind of tell sometimes when somebody is resisting, I'll
Right.
just do IET instead. And
Mhm.
Holy Fire Reiki, I learned from Beth, from New Earth Connections,
Right.
and it's just a beautiful. I would call it upgraded, I guess. It's just a beautiful new frequency of Reiki. And
Okay.
what was the other one? Dowsing. Another one of my colleagues, Mary Jean,
Mhm.
created this amazing book, whereas you can clear with a pendulum, and it's called Giving Freedom. And so I will kind of touch upon all of it's really what that person needs, you
Yeah.
know, at the
And
time.
you'll pick up on what they need when they see you.
Or sometimes I'll muscle test them
Right.
as well.
Mhm.
I did Touch for Health kinesiology, and I also learned a lot of that from the chiropractor who helped me with entity release. A lot of things just kind of came in my path,
Right. Yeah.
which is pretty normal for most
Yeah,
people.
some things, right, are just kind of put in our path. We're meant to
Yeah,
learn,
yeah,
yeah, from the universe gives us,
right. When you start to like be in touch with the universe, it's just like, all right, I get it,
well, okay, let's give this to her now. All right, maybe this
Yeah,
now. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, so well, you talked about the chiropractor. Would you consider him a mentor, or did you have other mentors that
I would
helped you?
totally, totally consider him a mentor. Um, mentors along the way I would say all of the different people I've trained with. I would say my colleagues.
Mhm.
We all learn from each other,
Right.
and in a strange way, you know how they say the worst thing in your life is like your biggest lesson.
Yes.
I would say the biggest challenges in my life are probably my mother and my sister.
Mhm.
When I started to study astrology, I really learned that. So they were a mentor in an indirect way
Right.
by
Right.
damaging me so
Well,
much that launched me into a healing field,
right. They
but
kind of
also causing me to kind of take my power back
right.
and then ultimately go on the forgiveness route.
Mhm. Right. So indirectly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But no, did I work with a specific mentor? Obviously, my Reiki master when, when I was younger in my 30s,
Right.
lovely woman. Her name is Judy. She's passed on now.
Mhm.
But so many different ones, Dolores Cannon when for the QHHT hypnosis. I trained in two different modalities, one in New York City and one with Dolores Cannon. And I'm kind of just an explorer an explorer.
An explorer. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe you were an explorer in a past life. A
I
different
got a
kind of.
lot of planets in my ninth house in the sidereal chart. So yeah.
So yeah, that would kind of make sense, right?
Yeah.
So now, well, what do you feel your overall philosophy of life is?
That what you put out is what you get.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
And that forgiveness is important and it's not always easy, but it does set you free.
Mhm.
Um, and that everybody is on their path and we shouldn't judge people.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, very true. If somebody wanted to contact you for one of your many services, what would be the best way? I know you said your website's under construction.
Yeah. My website is currently under construction.
Mhm.
But you can probably still email my website email address and you can contact me like that. So that would be earthlove@earthlovenow.com.
So earthlove at earthlovenow.com.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so somebody could do that. Now you mentioned astrology.
Hmm.
So let's see, you do astrological meditations 2 times a
Yes.
month at New Earth Community Connections in Manasquan.
Yes.
So describe how they are different than like a regular meditation.
Okay. So this all kind of ties into the whole life story thing.
Oh, good.
So after that entity came off my sister, I was obviously really freaked out, having not known what that was, like anybody would be. And also that night, me and my mother and my sister and my two nieces all had pains in our abdomen.
Oh,
What I learned is that when there is like a dark energy in your generational line, it's got its little fingers on everything. And it was the release that hurt,
mhm.
it's gone, completely gone. Everything's gone, gone, gone. But
Right.
I started to look into astrology and I met an astrologer. Um, Again, it was like, who shares this aspect? Gary P. Caton, born in 1968. I was like, oh, wow, he's born the same year as me. This is the guy. So I
Yeah.
looked him up and I talked to him and I said, like, what in the world like happened to me just now?
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, it's a bad energy in your mother's generational line. And
Wow.
yeah, it's like, uh, I understand it now. So that's what prompted me into learning astrology. But what he asked me to do was he told me that new moons, full moons, and eclipses are more, a little bit more potent than regular, moon times because the moon is always moving, always, always moving, every day, every day. But these are kind of like portals. And he said, there's an eclipse coming. Let's do this. And he said, on one piece of paper, write down what you think this bad energy is and draw a picture. And on
Oh,
another piece of paper, draw what you want to replace it. Because remember, energy can't be destroyed, it can only be changed.
that's right.
So on one piece of paper, I drew like something yucky and I wrote resentment, hatred, mean, all the things that were going on with my family line. And and then on the other, I put, forgiveness and love and everybody getting along. And I drew a picture of a flower. And when the flower was coming out of the ground, it formed the shape of a heart.
Oh,
So I gave the pieces of paper to him and he said, all right, I'm going to pray on this for you and basically say, you know, we're finished with this.
Right.
It also had to do with the fact that a lot of the planets in my chart are at advanced degrees. So meaning between 1 and 30, it's like we're done. Like maybe it was like at 27,
Oh,
meaning
wow.
like it's time, like it's done. Like if it were at like 5 degrees, it would be like, this is a new problem, but thank God it wasn't. So
Right.
he did it, and crazy enough was, and this will involve yet another person at New Earth. I went to the beach. I burned the paper and I went to the beach with the ashes and I was walking towards the ocean and I was just saying, thank you so much that this information came to me and that I could release this. And I put the ashes in the water, which is really profound because when you see that those ashes and when you see the wave fold over, you just
Oh,
know, gone.
wow. Mhm.
I step on a rock that's shaped like a heart. So I was like, wow,
Oh.
isn't that interesting? That's what I drew. And I put it in my pocket.
Mhm.
And because I am who I am, I'm always just so like, that was just an accident. So I'm like, all right, I walk and I find 4 more. I have 5 people in my family. I
Wow.
leave the
It's
beach.
like, all right, she didn't believe it. Here's some more signs. We're going to make her believe this.
I leave the beach and I was still being doubtful, believe it or not, which is wop wop. But and then I get this feeling like I have to go back to the beach one more time. So I go back and I see something glistening in the sand. And it was a dime. And I pick it up
Oh,
and I'm like, all right. So I go in my car and I'm like, significance of finding a dime. And it says, something has come to completion. It's number 10. The entire time where I was working on this, I was finding dimes. Like I'd be in a public bathroom, and there's a
yeah.
dime like right there near my foot. Or taking the chickpeas off the shelf and there's a dime. I'm like,
The
all
dime.
right, I get it. I get it. I believe it. And then I went to a different, I didn't know you at the time. I went to a different medium
Yeah.
reading and I went in and she said to me, do you go to the beach and pick up stones and go like this? I
Mm.
go, yeah.
Wow.
And she goes, the ancestor said thank you.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
So that's why I started the moon meditations because I realized that I was working with something really profound. And I
Yes.
thought, you know what? I'm going to use whatever knowledge I have
Mhm.
because I've only been studying astrology maybe 5, 6 years. I mean, and astrology is, whoa, there are astrologers out there that I have so much respect for. I just can't even go there right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I say I would study. I as I learn, I share. So the difference between a regular meditation and an astrological meditation now is that I understand what's going on in the sky and I will guide people toward it. For instance, our last full moon was in Capricorn.
Mhm.
So that's very much about grounding and limitations. So we did grounding exercises because the energy was there promoting that. It
Right.
doesn't mean you can meditate on whatever you want
Yeah.
anytime you want. But
Mhm.
it's nice to understand where the universe is flowing, and it's also amazing, like the toppling of the building in Miami. Uranus was square to Mars. I mean, I
Wow.
started to follow it for years. I started to follow it around the tsunami
Mhm.
in on December 26th. How many years ago was that? I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's when I started to follow astrology, and the astrologer was like, there's a bad energy out there. It's like the Titanic. And I was like, this guy's just negative. I don't want to even talk
Yeah.
to him. But he was right.
He was
So it's
right.
nice to know
Mhm.
when good and negative energies are around so that you could be in a good place. So this recent energy is about, you know what? Ground yourself because some tumultuous energies are coming and they did.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they did,
sure.
you
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
So, and I just, I teach people what I did.
Is that you're a creator of greeting cards.
Yes.
Speaking of writing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
they are also displayed at New Earth. And
Mhm.
you make herbal creams. So you
Yeah.
definitely have a creative side to you as well. So,
Yeah.
when did you realize your creative abilities and, how do they interact with your intuitive abilities?
So I've always been very creative. I always wrote poetry since I was a little girl.
Oh,
hmm And if you go to my website, you might see my Earth Love poetry on there. I won a poetry contest, and I'm on the front page
oh,
of a book,
congratulations.
yeah, called "Collected Whispers," and the poem is called Earth Love. So I I started to do the greeting cards in 2008. I'm very environmentally conscious, always have been. Started to realize that, like for instance, the dryer sheets. I don't know, hardly know anybody who uses them anymore, but back in 2008, yeah, everybody was using them.
People use them, yeah.
I was reading something like, take your bounce dryer sheet and do this. And I was like, no. So I was reading about it and finding out ways to do alternative things. So I started to make my own laundry detergent. I make my own deodorant. I sell that as well. And so I started to make greeting cards with these ideas inside of them. But back in 2008, nobody gave a hoot except me and maybe a couple
Right.
of other people. I'm not gonna do that. Like, no
Yeah.
way. But now they're starting to get a little bit more popular. But I've been so busy that I haven't had a chance to update my website. But I do, I sell them at a coffee shop in Seattle. I sell them locally. I do other things, I have to get on that basically. And the creams, when my youngest went to college, the empty nest syndrome,
Yes.
I decided to go back to school. My bachelor's is in anthropology, and I went back for a master's in integrated health, holistic health. So I
Great.
took some herbal courses, and I'm crazy about herbs. I'm like, I got like 4 planets in Taurus, love it. And so I started to learn, how to make herbal medicines and creams. So that's that's what that's about.
Oh,
I
wow. So
crochet too.
you have your hands in so many different things. Wow.
I do.
Great. No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
A woman of many talents. Right. So lastly, I do ask all my guests, what advice would you give to someone who wants to explore, expand their intuition?
Hmm. I would say the best thing to do is to begin clearing your emotional body because it makes things more clear. So, I mean, you don't have to do past life regression. You could just meditate. But I personally, in my journey, I've gotten more and more intuitive as I've healed myself, like little chips at a time.
Anytime. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. If that's, really good advice. Don't try to take on everything at once.
You
But
can't because, like, I had somebody yesterday and she was like, how did you know that? And I'm like, trust me. When she was 32, I'm like, you're 32. I'm 53.
yeah.
I was at your stage once saying, like, how come I can't do that? And it makes me so mad when people are like, I saw this and I saw that. And I'm like, just don't even bother getting mad about it because it's just going to take time.
Right.
That's how it was for me.
Right. Okay. Well, thank
Everyone's
you.
different.
But this is a great segue because you said you're, increasing your intuitive abilities. So I do have two questions, that came in. So just try to open up those intuitive
Sure.
antennas. All right. And so Peyton would like to know, will I find an apartment that I like?
Oh. Okay, so the first thing I see is green.
Green. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like if the apartment has like green chairs, leather chairs in it or something,
Okay.
that would be the one.
So
But
that's the one to look for, things that have green in it, right?
like no, like green leather. That's what I
Oh,
saw just
oh,
now.
so
Like,
specifically.
yeah. But
Well,
I don't do what you do. Like I don't do intuitive readings. I do more healing
yeah.
work, you know. But sometimes I get impressions.
Impressions. Okay, well, maybe the second one might be more up your alley, so to speak.
Mhm.
So the second question is from Cindy, and Cindy would like to know, how do you release negative energy someone is sending your way? So that's definitely
Mm.
something you can answer.
Okay. So the first thing is, um, don't ever wish that those negative energies to go back to the person because you are continuing a bad cycle. So
Right.
the first thing I would do is if somebody is sending negative energies towards me, I would enclose myself in a pyramid of light and I would just envision that there's a beautiful pyramid around me. The base is on your feet and you're enclosed in it, and that pyramid is just filled with healing energy, and that you nothing's going to penetrate you anymore.
Well, thank you. Well, our time is up, but thank you so much. Wow, you're extremely interesting. You have so many aspects to you, like the onion, like you talked about.
Yeah.
There's so many wonderful intuitive abilities. So once again, please tell everyone the best way to contact you. You're saying your email, so please say your
Yeah, so you can email me at earthlove@earthlovenow.com, or you can go to the New Earth website, newearthhealinggifts.com, www.newearthhealinggifts.com.
It is. Oh, thank you so much, Marilyn. It's truly a pleasure.
Thank you so
I
much.
really appreciate you taking your time. So,
Yeah, thank you for asking me.
yes. So I'd also like to remind everyone that if they have any questions they'd like to send in, please send them in to www.readingsbyphyllis.com. So I want to thank you again, Marilyn. Thank the viewers. Thank the listeners. Take care and God bless.